So, I'm heading out today to watch Love and Monsters in theaters. Yep, you heard me. Love and Monsters, the film that is supposed to be skipping theaters and going straight to video on demand, maybe Netflix, I don't know. But I found it showing at my local theater, and so I'm gonna go see it today. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to get a review in, and this might be exciting. It has Dylan O'Brien from Maze Runner, and I really like the Maze Runner movie, so it might be interesting to see how this goes. It also got good reviews from critics. And yeah, so the title Love and Monsters. You gotta realize that this sounds like another title coming out for another movie. I have a feeling that they saw the title for the fourth Thor movie and decided to steal Thor's thunder. Unfortunately, they only got away with the love. Yep. So that is what I'm going to do today. I might come back for a review, and that might be it. So, yeah. This movie was a movie about this guy named Joel, after some monster apocalypse, who lived in an underground bunker. He was played by Dylan O'Brien, who I knew from The Maze Runner, and, yeah, it was, and so, it was in it, and so when he leaves the bunker, to try to find his girlfriend, who is like 80 miles away in a monster-infested world. Okay, so this movie was actually, I enjoyed it a lot. And so this was a fun movie that, you know, there were some emotional moments, but it sort of was a kind of parody on the whole idea of a monster apocalypse, but at the same time it still had its serious moments. But yeah, it was just a fun movie, and I really enjoyed it. The preview didn't look as cool as I thought it would. The preview didn't make it look as cool, but then you see the movie, and it actually did look much better than the preview led me to believe. So, the preview, yeah. But yeah, the movie was, I'm not very good at reading mine. Well, okay, so the movie was good. I liked it, it was fun, and it's hard to go into this without giving too many spoilers. But I should say that, okay, so as far as plot flow goes, it sort of did have, it was a little bit episodic, like, as he was journeying this way, like, there were certain moments, and it seemed like there were certain beats that were self-contained, and yeah, they all connected some way or another throughout the story, but they didn't, like, connect, like, all building up to one thing. Like, there were different plot beats that were sort of self-contained, like, characters would be in this story for, like, a short period of time, and then, like, other characters, and, you know, like, it wasn't, like, necessarily all consistent characters throughout the whole thing. The climax sort of, like, the climax introduced stuff that were, like, completely, the climax built on the rest of the story, but at the same time, it, like, was introduced, brought up by characters that were, like, brought in for the climax, if you know what I'm saying. Might have to put a spoiler warning, maybe. I don't know exactly if that helps. But, yeah, so there were, the characters, Dylan O'Brien's character was really funny. I really liked the dog boy also, and, yeah, so, it was a fun movie. There were a few scenes that I didn't really like, because they're kind of crude, mostly near the beginning. But yeah, most of the journey was like going from this point to this point, but it wasn't boring. It was like, there were cool moments in it, and it was fun. There was a lot of comedy, I keep saying that, and it's really hard to go into this without. But yeah, it builds on itself, but not in the traditional sense of Every moment is like, the introduction does not lead directly to the climax. Different moments in the story lead to different other moments throughout the story, but they, like, it's sort of self-contained themes, but they're all connected, if you know what I mean. But I actually don't have a problem with that. That is kind of like, you know, I do feel like a lot of movies are really, like, too self-contained. Like, everything in the story has to add up to this big moment, and it all has to be, like, one single-minded. But this thing can introduce new plot elements. It's constantly bringing in new plot elements into the story. So that's kind of cool. Even nearing the end, there's new plot elements that weren't there before, and yeah, so that's kind of cool. Like, new characters, new plot elements. I feel like there could be a sequel for this one. At the same time, it doesn't need a sequel necessarily, but I feel like they ended it in a way that it's like leaving it open for a sequel, but also in a way that where if there isn't a sequel, then you can just like go like, okay, like, yeah. I feel like that was I feel like that's how they do films, and might try to do films nowadays, because they, you know, sometimes when you're trying to start a franchise, it doesn't go well. So you want to, like, you don't want to leave people with unmet expectations. So it's like, you can end it here. I mean, maybe not preferable, but you can. Sort of had the same kind of thing with Mortal Engines. I actually wasn't the only one in the theater seeing the film, which was actually cool. There was one other person. Literally just me and one other person. Yeah. So would I recommend this movie? Well, that's a complicated thing to say, because I don't recommend digital movies. I mean, I'm not a huge digital movie fan. Like, you know, movies that skip theaters, I'm not for that. This movie technically skipped theaters, but at the same time, it was playing in theaters where I live, so I sort of, like, found a loophole in the system. So, I mean, I guess I mean, yeah, I don't exactly know what I would say about that, because I do like it. I would recommend it. But it also depends on your take on digital movies. For me, it wasn't a digital movie, so I was able to find my way around it. I probably would not have seen it if it wasn't playing in theaters, and just because one guy online says that it went to theaters where he was, doesn't mean that the same situation was for everyone, because I didn't see it listed at AMC, and, like, I'm actively campaigning to get Soul back in theaters, because Pixar does not deserve to skip theaters, and yeah, that is my rant. But I do think that this was a fun movie. I enjoyed it on the big screen. I don't know how I'd feel about it if I saw it on my computer rather than on digital. I mean, rather than in theaters. But it did look pretty nice on the big screen. Like, the problem with the previews was it sort of looked like the cameras were a lot of static shots, but then you actually get into the movie, and there's a lot more camera movement. So, yeah, so let's see. So, I did like the movie. I think that I probably would watch it again on DVD. Whether I'd actually buy the movie on DVD or not is a totally different story. Maybe, but I definitely would, if it comes to DVD, check it out from the library. I don't know how much I'd watch it, but I would not discount watching it again, because it was fun. I don't know how I'd feel about it a second time. There were some moments that felt a little bit, well, there was one moment that felt a little bit clunky, but, you know, watching it the first time through, I was looking at it as an individual, like, I mean, I was watching it as the story goes on. I think sometimes when you're watching it the first time, as opposed to watching it other times, like when you're watching it in the theaters your first time, it sometimes feels like you're being brought into the world of the story. When you're watching it like you're just being brought into the world. It's more about the world than the story, usually, when you're watching it the first time. Sometimes when you watch it the second time, you're more focused on the story. So, like, you end up seeing more of these things, like, you end up having different expectations, like how the story builds up. But just watching it the first time, I felt like, world building wise, it really was good. And I don't feel like random tangents usually, like, or off, tangents that feel a little bit off, don't usually feel a bit off if you're watching it the first time, if your goal is not to, like, build the story. And so, yeah, I would hope there's a sequel. I would give it about 4 stars out of 5 if I was to rank it. Definitely good for one trip to the theater. I actually got a little bit of a discount, like it was a $5 deal. Instead of the normal 7 or 8, because it is a video-on-demand movie now and maybe on Netflix. One other topic I wanted to go into. Let's see, what other topic I was talking about? The movie, obviously. I remembered what I was going to say. I had to pause a little bit. Okay, so, admittedly, this movie did sort of seem... I had heard of this movie separately, but at first, I thought it was the new title for this other movie coming out called Monster Hunter, but it's not the same movie. I knew that before I went into it. I saw the preview for Monster Hunter the other day, so I didn't get to the movie theater and see the preview for Monster Hunter and go like, wait a second, this isn't the same thing? No, it wasn't like that. There was another movie that came out, I think, to 15 theater that I might have also wanted to consider watching called 2067, but that was only released to 15 theater in the United States, and it was an Australian movie. I don't know what I want to do about that movie. It sort of seemed like a similar idea, but not the same, so it was like, yeah, I guess there are some similar comparisons, maybe like if you want to cross over 2067, which I haven't seen yet, and Monster Hunters, which I haven't seen yet, and combine them together. Maybe. The scenery was also really good in this movie. I liked how it was, like, how they designed the world, and it was like, they filmed in, I believe, Queensland, Australia, and that was pretty nice, the scenery. And I really liked that scenery. It was green and stuff. I think it was supposed to technically be America, around California, actually. But it wasn't filmed there. But the scenery was nice, so I liked that. I thought it was a pretty fun movie, and yeah, it was a fun movie, somewhat emotional. I liked it, and I think that's what I'm gonna go with. So, do I recommend it? I think I could recommend it. I would say that if you find a theater near you playing it, and you're into, like, post-apocalyptic films, which, that's not my main genre, but I do, like, appreciate those films, I would recommend going to see it. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna say. And thanks for watching. Bye!